Happy Thursday, everybody. My name is Aaron Conant. I'm the co-founder and managing director of BWG Connect. We're a networking and knowledge sharing group with thousands of organizations that do exactly that. We network and knowledge share together to stay on top of the newest trends, strategies, pain points, whatever it is that's shaping, digital growth and overall business growth as a whole. Just so happens a lot of times right now those are completely combining with each other. And so I chat with 30 to 40 organizations each week to stay on top of the trends, and when the same topics come up over and over again, we host an event like this. So this is a unique one as well, because we were able to kind of tap into the network and do just kind of an insight report, a study, some market research as to holistically how are people viewing this, and we're going to go through some of that here. Just a couple housekeeping items as we get started. We're kicking this off at 3 to 4 minutes after the hour, and just so you know, we're going to wrap up with 3 to 4 minutes in the hour to go as well. We're going to give you plenty of time to get onto your next meeting without being late. The other thing, we want this to be as educational and informational as possible. So at any point in time, if you have a question, feel free to drop it in the question section. You can drop it in the chat. And if it's easier, you can always just email me, Aaron, AARON at bwgconnect.com, and we'll field questions that way as well. We want to get as many answered today as possible. But as we, before we kind of jump into some of this, the content as a whole, we got some great friends, partners, supporters of the network for a long time now over at Perficient as well as IBM. And I'm going to kind of kick it over to Jennifer and Devanshu so they can kind of intro themselves. But Jennifer, you want to go first, brief intro on yourself and role and organization? That'd be awesome. And then we can go to Devanshu.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron, I didn't think anyone could talk faster than I do. So love that about you. My name is
a lot to get into this hour.
My name is Jennifer Clark. I'm with IBM. So I manage the Sterling Order Management product for IBM. So the Sterling Order Management product is the largest in the world. We represent at least 50% of the top 100 retailers on the globe. So we do a lot with supply chain, specifically on the end side towards the consumer, but we're learning now that the supply chain is really all connected. It's from front to end, beginning to end. And so I'm happy to sort of share some of the thoughts and customer experiences that we've been having.
Awesome. Devanshu?
Hey everyone, my name is Devanshu and I'm a director in our commerce practice at Perficient. For folks who don't know what Perficient is, we are a leading digital consulting firm working with some of the biggest brands and helping them transform digitally. My area of focus, similar to what Jennifer is, I've been working on the order management side for more than 15 years. I was in the engineering team first, and then I moved into the product consulting piece of it, and been working very closely with some of the biggest retailers here in the US and helping them with their order management and commerce implementations. Aaron?
Yeah, awesome. So I say we kind of jump into some of the findings we had from the research we did. If people have questions along the way, just drop in the questions in the chat. Obviously, Jennifer, Devanshu, if you want to jump in with commentary, that'd be great as well. But just to kind of highlight how we took a look at this, total number 55. Different, that's kind of the sample size that we had here, retail product oriented companies. We kind of focus more on executive level leadership to kind of get, hey, what's the real direction of the company and what are they focused on? We got organizations of all sizes, but when we think about the roles, we were looking kind of to the upper executive level. But organizations of all sizes, so hopefully it's very pertinent to most of the people on the line today. If we take a look at, I don't think anybody's surprised by this chart, just looking back at what has happened over the course of the pandemic. There's everything happening on the supply chain side, from containers and ports and getting product here. But across the board, I think that if you look at the total overall strategic factor, kind of what this is calling out is, like, literally today, it's a focus that people are putting a lot of time and effort into. And certainly by the end of next year, they're going to want to have a lot of these plans in place. And there's a whole bunch of different moving parts that people are trying to figure out right now. But I mean, I don't think anybody's surprised that all of a sudden this is top of mind for a lot of executives as a whole. What are those key areas of focus they were kind of honing in on? Warehouse management upgrades are there, in-housing supply chain functions. So this is as companies were looking at, hey, do we outsource or do we bring in? How do we get the most control? I think a lot of that is spurred from kind of the container issue and supply chain as a whole. How do we get more of this under our own control? You jump into transportation, carrier relations, supply chain resilience. A lot of that was related to, building in a little bit of buffer as opposed to just in time. And then, as you get closer to the customer, you have the order management upgrades as a whole. There's these other bullet points that, we can read through. We can make sure everybody gets a copy of this. I think the one kind of bullet point is the warehouse and order management at 65% and 60%. Those are, showing up in the top 5, as a whole. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, Jennifer, I'm extracting from that is, it doesn't matter if, it's great if we get the end or the supply chain at the front end figured out. But once we get that in, we do believe we're going to get that inventory in. We do believe we're going to get our supply chain figured out. Just as important is, what are the new customer expectations and how do we get it to them, right? I mean, is that something that you're seeing as well? And we'd love to hear Devanshu's thoughts on it as well. Oh, we're on mute too.
I will do that 5 more times. You do have some of the companies that really have just been using and relying on their ERPs to do their sales ordering and on all of their inventory management, sourcing, et cetera. And so I think there's a realization that, oh my goodness, we can, bolt on, we don't have to change our ERP. We can just bolt on an order management and be able to do business rules, be able to do, contract pricing, be able to set up rules for our best customers to meet SLAs. So I think we definitely are seeing that this year. And then we're just seeing a lot of companies who are really efficient in, so the first part is these guys are just learning sort of that there's order management out there that can do more than my ERP or more than my legacy system. And then you have your retailers who are basically growing and sort of saying, okay, now I need a different order management system. I need to have omni-channel fulfillment capabilities that I haven't had before, AI that I haven't had before. So that's why I think you're seeing the order management be such a big focus for organizations. And I'll pass it over. I'm sorry, I jumped in. I get excited.
Devanshu, I'd love to hear your thoughts here too.
Yeah, so yeah, on the ERP side, right, exactly what Jennifer said, because a lot of folks have homegrown ERPs or they've bought ERPs, and over the years what they've done is they've customized their ERPs to do order management and inventory stuff, which they were not truly meant to do because of the scale, right? So with pandemic, what we saw was the order volume go up, your network of fulfillment is complicated, your inventory is all over the place. So those cases, an ERP does not scale that well. So you have to spend a lot of time on customization. So that's where an order management starts being a lot more important, actually. So that's what we've been seeing in the industry as well. A lot of focus has been on taking out the ERP piece of the order management piece from the ERPs to a well-defined order management system.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I know, but from the ERP standpoint, for the longest time, it was just easier to just, do a user exit in SAP and update it, and
Absolutely.
If we take a look at, supply chain pain points that stood out, and these are, when we kind of drafted these out, it's kind of like, hey, closest to the sourcing side to close to the consumer side. And what we really see is, this, 33%, so we got 98% of respondents, it's going to get worsening. 33% are saying, hey, it's bad. You can kind of like see that how that's going to flow through. And I think over time, these pain points within the supply chain are going to start flowing through this where, hey, customer satisfaction, while right now it's only impacting, 4% say it's really bad. I think that 33% is just going to keep flowing through as that slug goes through the supply chain, and then there's more and more inventory showing up, things are getting figured out. At the same time, customer demands are going through the roof, right? It's a spoil me now mentality from the consumer side. And so this is going to be very interesting to see how this plays out over the next couple of years. If we kind of jump into, and I think we're going to spend, we can come back after some key takeaways, spend a lot of time on this slide as a whole, is what does maturity look like? We're asking people for, where are we at today? Where do you think we're going to be? Where do you think you're at? Where do you think the most mature people are at? And it's just interesting to see, that, as people look at this, and the least mature, 25% are saying modern warehouse management system are the least mature that are out there. I mean, there's half of them that are, then on the flip side are saying, hey, most mature, we're at cybersecurity upgrades and third-party delivery partnerships. It's interesting to see how these different pain points are going to play out over time. And now I'm just going to kind of go to the key takeaways as a whole. And I don't have to read all of these, but North America global supply chains are hindered, multiple challenges across the board. These are going to be sticking around for a long time. Few areas across the globe have been spared as a whole. Supply chain initiatives are rapidly rising in priority. We saw that kind of in this, second one, where executives across the board are just saying, hey, at 90% of them, it's right now or it's in the next year. But by the end of next year, we want to have a lot of these things in place. Supply chain is now, this is how, but is now a point of differentiation for enterprises. Yeah, I mean, that's anybody who, got ahead of the game on just in time and or got ahead of the game on order management on both ends, which includes delivery and, orders from the end consumer, they're ahead of the game, right? And those are the ones that are getting the biggest wins at this point in time. I think one of the most interesting things just that I get from talking with organizations is, I was kind of mentioning at the beginning of the call was, who's sitting now in the executive team, right? And who's sitting, at the board level, kind of reporting out, where supply chain always had an important role and now they have a seat at the table. So is that something, Jennifer, that you're seeing, and more than happy to kind of, tackle any of these. And just a reminder to others, as we kind of get into Q&A, we open it up for Q&A, drop any questions in the chat, in the question section, or email them directly to me, Aaron, AARON @bwgconnect.com. So, yeah, Jennifer, are you kind of seeing the same thing? Like, who's in the executive team meetings now? How has that changed over the past year? We'll kind of kick it off there.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing supply chain functions. We're seeing digital commerce functions where we hadn't seen those before, and IT. So I've had a conversation in the fall, actually, last fall with Opie Bakari from Hudson Bay, one of our retailers, and he said, for the first time, you're seeing technology have a seat at the table making these strategic decisions. So I think that's what is happening. You're seeing all of a sudden all of these different business lines that maybe didn't have a voice at the table. Organizations are realizing that you need your digital, you need your technology, you need your supply chain, you need all these functions to make these collaborative decisions.
Yeah, and we've seen the same on the consulting side. So a lot of retailers or businesses are reaching out to us, helping us, asking us to help them define their strategy for the next year. So guide them what's happening in the market, what the latest trends are, and what they should be doing next. So we are getting involved in a lot of that activity as well now.
Yeah, so if we think about it from, it's just a question that comes in around the consumer, the retailer side as a whole. What are your thoughts on, if we look at some of these things, I kind of play them out of, warehouse management, robotics gets brought in, third-party delivery partnerships, ship from store. Do you see this popping up? I have a couple of people asking across, what are your thoughts around that? And are you seeing people adopt it? How are they handling the orders for it? Would love to hear your thoughts there.
So, Jennifer, okay, let me go first. Sorry.
I've been the mic hog.
Yeah. So ship from store was actually a great way to utilize your inventory last year, right? When your DCs were running low on inventory, the stores, not as many people coming in. So it was a great way for organizations to start utilizing their inventory. So we saw a ton of customers come to us that they wanted to implement ship from store. But post holidays, what we saw was, because if you're not like a big box retailer like a Home Depot or a Target, and you have relatively smaller stores, and you were offering ship from store, what happened there was, because you were shipping from your smaller stores, your orders were splitting into multiple shipments. and that actually was impacting the bottom line because the more shipments you have for an order, the lesser profit you make. So a lot of retailers, what they are doing this year is trying to figure out a sweet spot of the number of stores they are going to use for ship to store. So we had a retailer who initially started with all the stores. Now they've cut down to like 10 or 15 stores. They've gone really down. And other thing which retailers are looking to do is implement, as in use some of the stores as dark stores, so they don't have customers walking in, but they are using those stores for shipping only. So I really like ship from store as a concept because it gives you an alternate way to fulfill the order, utilize your inventory better. But then you as an organization need to decide what stores are important, where you need to decide which stores do you need to ship from and the number of stores you're going to choose.
So I totally echo that. I think the issues are, making sure you have the right processes and people. So you need to take someone out of the store to pick and pack, and they need to ship. So what your advantage isn't necessarily, it is a little bit of cost efficiencies, but it's really customer satisfaction because you're getting into the customer sooner, but you are trading off some other things. And then layer that on top of technology. If you don't have the right visibility into what inventory is in your stores or your bricks and mortar, then you sort of are potentially adding some disruption to both your associates as well as your customer. So I think there's pros and cons, and definitely last year we saw, there seemed to be, and I don't remember what it was, but it was a cutoff in like December from our carriers. Like, sorry, but we can't get it to you by Christmas, if you don't order and ship by this day. So having the ability to ship from store was really key. So perhaps like, like was said, that you different stores, depending on where the volume is, maybe there's also different time periods, so.
Yeah, I think, eventually you're saying, and I think you're echoing Jennifer, is like initially it was everything, and now it's, hey, where is it really meaningful? I think across the board, people are looking at profitability as a whole. And, if we think about it from that standpoint, any of this stuff takes an investment, but hopefully at the end there's, increased profitability at the end. Where are you seeing organizations invest in their supply chain? So there's, a ton of bullet points that are on this slide here. Maybe this is some of them. Maybe there's other ones that you guys think are top of mind that you're seeing as well. But, where are you seeing organizations invest across the board to improve their supply chain? And it can be from, supplier to vendor. It can be anywhere in there.
It sort of surprised me, and when you showed this, I thought to myself, it could be the type of clients that we have, but definitely digital customer journeys, moving data to a public cloud, that's really, really big. So I think I recently heard that the RFID is something that's out of my scope of things that we're doing, but I've heard that that's going on, and that allows for more modernization of the security, so that using different technologies, you can, I'm trying to think of the way to say it, do self-checkout. So you can go into a Walmart and do self-checkout. That's probably not a great example, but without having to unlock your security tag. So they're coming up with all new technologies for that, and that again goes back to labor. So I think that's why it's a big issue. I don't know if you have any other thoughts.
Devanshu, yeah, I'd love to hear like where you see people investing across, to improve their supply chain across the board.
So on the commerce side, right, as in e-commerce side of things, so some of the things we are seeing is a business is trying to find out new ways to get the product out of the door, right? So one of the things we saw heavily was a concept of same-day delivery or a 2-hour delivery or a 3-hour delivery. So a lot of retailers we work with are trying to do that. So essentially, instead of shipping from your warehouse, if somebody wants something immediately, they order something overnight instead of that next day shipping. So what we've done as a part of extension of the ship from store project is we are enabling retailers to be able to ship products using on-demand carriers like Uber Eats, Postmates, DoorDashes of the world. So we've seen customers focus on that. Last year it was additionally the next thing where we've seen is the curbside pickup, right? As in everybody started curbside pickup. So last year when we started curbside pickup, it was more like putting a band-aid in, because everybody wanted curbside pickup. We just passed basic information to the store, but the customer still had to call the store when he was on the curb, and let the store rep know that he is there, and he had to wait for his stuff. So this year what we are seeing is retailers actually are trying to make those solutions better. So one of the retailers we were working with is doing something like geofencing. So if customer has an app installed, retailer's app installed on the phone, they reach within the vicinity of the parking lot, a message automatically goes to the store rep, and the store rep can bring the product out without, and it kind of reduces the wait time. So helping serve the customer better, that's another area of focus. Um, uh, so yeah, and lastly, one thing which was, because of pandemic, you never know when your offices or and call centers are being shut down. One of the other things we've seen around the customer service improvement piece of it, what we've seen is a lot of retailers want to do something for the CSRs to be still able to take orders when they are at home, but because it's not a PCI compliant environment, we've seen retailers ask for something like a pay by link, where they call the CSR, and if the CSR is at home, rather than taking the card number on the phone, the CSR sends them a link on their email or text. The customer opens the link, enters the card information, and when he's done entering the card information, the CSR can complete the order. So those are some of the customer service improvement areas, some of the additional fulfillment channels, or ways in which they can serve the customer better. We've seen a lot of investment around those areas.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, how are you handling then, the complexity around the back end when we think about inventory, where it's located, how it's moving? Obviously that's where the ERP comes in. And I know there's a lot of people saying, hey, updating the ERP, but also, if you got 1,000 user exit in there, it's kind of tough. How are you looking at, updating, order management as a whole and handling that?
So yeah, as in, we've been fortunate enough because we've been working with some of the best order management in the country, and especially the Sterling order management piece of it. So the product does a great job in supporting the business use cases. So we have a good product out there which can accept those. So which when you start bringing the store inventory and you have all those transactions, store inventory coming in, all those transactions, all the cash and carry transactions coming in, which kind of is too much for an ERP to handle. So that's where we work closely with the ERP team and get that inventory into a centralized order management system and do a better job in promising that inventory.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts there as well.
Yeah, we're also seeing a lot of, especially on the industrial side, a lot of businesses that have grown through acquisitions. So now you're dealing with multiple siloed inventory, and there are products and solutions out there that can take that data, working with the ERP, to create one single view and help organizations manage it. And it's not small organizations. I've done a ton of focus groups this year, and you'd be surprised at how many companies have that disadvantage of not having a full view of where their inventory is. And so one of the things that we really wanted to do was be able to work with ERPs, rather than replace an ERP, because your ERP really does great financial work and great, human resources types of things. So we have sort of these headless applications that can kind of come right in and bolt in and bring these inventories to one view.
What about in the area of like analytics, right? There's a lot of things get thrown around, and it's analytics, it's machine learning, it's AI, I think they all go together, and yet they're just kind of thrown around. Like, any insights on, how you guys are using any of that to help, in a way that brands or, retailers on the line should think about, applying that to their supply chain, things they should be thinking about or using or implementing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely one-sided when it comes to that question, because we're using artificial intelligence in our fulfillment solution. So being able to take the information from the order and determine the best way to source the inventory as well as to deliver it at a cost-efficient manner. So we have one company that's using that, that's saving, 10 million a month doing that. So that solution has been out for several years. I think retailers are just starting to get comfortable with the concept of AI and the concept of trusting a computer to make decisions for you that sometimes seem illogical. And that solution we've seen really become have a big focus this year. We're also working on an AI to be able to do predictive inventory, so that will be out later this year. But I think that's really where you're going to see a lot of our IBM competitors doing all sorts of, as well as IBM, all sorts of AI predictive analytics, because really we didn't have the need to do that before. But to your point, we were talking about earlier, Aaron, is like you can't really determine what inventory you need for this holiday because no one left their houses last holiday. And so you don't have the trends you used to. You really need that sort of computer to be able to help make those decisions for you.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just interesting. And just going back, I'm going to flip back a few slides, just going to, this one right here. Pre-pandemic, it was just, there's a few leaders out there, but most people were okay. But the rate at which people are adopting digital right now and have been, and it's not slowing, and the fact that we're 20 months in, it's not going back to where it was before, right? It's now demanding a different viewpoint on the world. And I think like kind of what you were saying is like people are starting to adopt this more and more. It's almost table stakes at this point in time to be implementing some of these things, or you will be left behind, right? That's kind of what I took away from, this one is, you've got 12 to 18 months is kind of the time frame I put on this slide here before those major, that 33% makes its way through the supply chain. And you have to be willing to test and learn and experiment. Devanshu, I don't know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the AI side as well. Letting machine learning, having it crunch data, having it collect data, crunch data, and have it make a decision. Are you seeing people adopt this?
Yes, and it's the adoption beginning to get there. So, as in businesses have started using AI for a few things, right? So Jennifer mentioned like the predictive demand. So what essentially that helps is if for a retailer to figure out how much product to stock in a particular location and come to an optimum level, right? Because you don't want to be understocking or overstocking in a particular location. So that's where we've seen AI as in AI being involved a lot to figure out what's going to be stored in a particular location. The other thing, at least on the order management side, is one of the things which is beginning to be more important is the predictive, as in you use AI for order routing. So traditionally, it used to be like static rules that I want to fulfill from the nearest store, or I want to have the least shipment. So you didn't have any intelligence behind it. But now what we've seen is, and especially with products, the capabilities which are there is a order is not just a standalone order anymore. It's a combination of all the other demand out there. So if you have a product which is being sold a lot in New York, and if a customer in New York orders that, so do you want to ship it from that particular store in New York, or do you want to ship it from an Ohio area where the demand for that would be less? So we've seen that a lot, and at least on the order routing side, that's something which is going to get more and more important as we go on.
Yeah, I mean, so is it taking into then account as well, like the different shipping method, like how many different data points are being, consumed, right? From, hey, this product was never bought in store, but is, getting shipped 10 times a day, from a different, from a delivery method, and then taking a look at different delivery methods to determine how much inventory is where. Like how deep does that go? I mean, would love to hear your thoughts there. I mean, how many different data points, and then are people building that on their own?
So as in our focus has been mostly on working with products like the IBM Sterling Order Management, who have those capabilities built in, right? So IBM has a big engineering team who's innovating all of that for us. So we just take and run with it. Behind the scenes, obviously, there is a lot of data crunching which goes on. How many orders are being placed in the Ohio area in this example? What's the store traffic like in the New York area? What's the predictive demand on in the New York side of things? So it takes a lot, and what the trends are going to be. So all of that, all of those things factor into the decision as to where to route the order from.
So if I keep that over to you, Jennifer, like so I was just kind of pulling some threads there that come top of mind for me, but what advanced analytics are you using to identify, different efficiencies, inefficiencies, across the supply chain landscape?
So, I mean, you're really talking about data, and that's the golden standard right now is get the data and figure out, what you need to stock, where you need to stock it, what's selling, what's not selling. And some of our systems do that, some of them don't, but that's really what a lot of customers are doing right now is they're taking that data, they're taking it to personalize. So that's a big thing that's coming around that, I want to personalize when Aaron comes to my site. I know he likes this, and so I'm going to serve him up some more of this. So it's really all about that data. And as we talked about, we have some solutions that will take it and do will determine the best choice. We have other systems that will help determine where things are selling, where they're not selling. We don't, I'm trying to think of I've seen this, we don't actually do it, but the data all the way down to, like JanSport, they build backpacks, they can tell where their zipper is sourced from, what country and what the inventory is, and if they're going to run out of it, and if they need to look at their tier 2 supplier for that zipper. So it's super interesting the way the data is being used, and I do think that that's in light of what we're all going through and have been going through. I think that's really what we'll continue to see as a focus.
Awesome. So just as we get kind of halfway through the hour here, just a quick reminder, having an awesome conversation around basically the maturity of the supply chain. And that's all the way from sourcing to end consumer order management and getting the product to them. So if you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to drop them into the question section that you have there. I'm more than happy to get any of them answered, or chat them in, or email them to me, Aaron, AARON at BWG Connect, and we'll keep getting them answered. Is there a starting point that you see as, there's, what is there, 10, 14 different things on a list here, and everybody is seeing, and now they have from the executive teams, right? They're saying, hey, get this figured out. It's a huge issue. We need to address it. I'm going to put time, effort, money, people, whatever it takes behind it. Where do we start? And that's an interesting one. Like, if Devanshu, I'll kick it over to you first, and then we can kick it over to Jennifer. Where should people start looking first?
So, I think if you're bleeding revenue, I think you should definitely be starting there. If you do not have the correct inventory in your systems and you cannot show that to the customer for buy online pickup in store, or use that inventory to ship product out, I think that's definitely where you should be starting. But then it also depends on the resources your organization has available, right? Like integrating an order management with an AI chatbot is something which is fairly easy, and we've seen that request go up a lot. So essentially, it can be done very easily, and it brings in a lot more value on the customer side, where customers can check the status of their order, add more lines, cancel stuff, start returns. So as an organization, you need to value, as in, do you want quick wins, or do you want something which might take a bit longer and might be slightly more costly, and based on the number of resources and the money you have, you take a decision based on that.
Dan, are you helping people walk through that? So post call, people are like, hey, where do I get started? Do we just connect them to you?
We do. So typically with all our existing clients and new clients, with our existing client, we do have quarterly meetings. We tell them what's going on, what are the latest trends in the market, what our team is seeing happening with you guys right now, and this is what we suggest you should be doing. And for new clients, as I mentioned earlier, we are getting a lot of strategy requests in helping them evaluate what systems they should be buying, and with those systems, what their strategy should be. How we try and understand what their problems are, and then prepare a roadmap for them.
No, it's awesome, because I think a lot of people, they know it needs to be done. They know there's a million different people out there to help them solve it, and they need to wade down to the one or two that can actually help them do it. So no, awesome, love it. Jennifer, from your standpoint, where do you see people starting? Like, what's the kind of the recommendation, step 1, step 2, step 3, whatever it might be, as people try to kick this off over the next 12 to 18 months?
I think for me, it's really about what's right for their business. I mean, that's really, I think, the most important thing. And we certainly don't try to impress our technology for that reason. But if I looked at today, and my initial thoughts are, we have labor concerns, we have inventory concerns, we have shipping concerns. What as a business can you fix today? Probably not too much, but you can maybe incent people to work for you. You can set expectations with your customers about, maybe you're not going to have promotions this holiday. Maybe you're going to do promotions only for your loyal customers versus, anyone else. So thinking about how you sort of want to be able to fix today what's going on today. And then the parallel path to that for me is what's going on today that you really need to fix for the future. And I think that's where some of your technology comes in. And whether it's on where you are on your adopting journey, it could be your modern order management system, because I'm biased like that, and it could just be your warehouse system. We have a company who's really awesome to work with, and they already have order management. They're updating so they kind of went like that. They're updating their warehouse management and then augmenting additional services for order management. So, it's really where, sort of think about today and where you're going today, but also think about what your company will need in the future. And it's different for every company.
And sometimes it's very easily folks get sucked into, oh, we want to transform our systems, and they take too much stuff. So they start upgrading their websites, they start doing their order management and warehouse at the same time. So it's really critical for businesses to figure out what do you need first, or where do small wins come from? Because if you start undertaking all these systems and you have limited folks available who are going to be participating in all those meetings, that's where projects start to run behind. So that's what we advise customers against. Our approach is always to do MVP first and then go bigger, and then maybe start in one place and then slowly roll out the program to other aspects as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's one of the most difficult parts, is picking which one are you going to go with first, right? I mean, IT is, underappreciated in the past, and then now is, being overworked. I mean, their list of new tasks, and I think you nailed it, Vanshu, including on the direct to consumer side, on a website side, they're trying to integrate 15 different suppliers, 20 different, vendors on the back end, get it all plugged in, whether it's, new delivery partners, or it's recurring payments, or subscription providers, or alternative payment methods. Everything's getting plugged in at once. And, I think, yeah, I like what you're saying is, kind of put them all on the table and then pick the one you're going to go after, and start working on that one first. Like, what's the most important, and what's that minimum viable product you can get out there to get working on right away and test and learn on it. I think the only thing that's the wrong step is to not do anything and hope this all figures itself out. Jennifer, I take this over to you just because of the question. Do you have any feeling, like, is it a year? Is it 2 years? Does this supply chain thing get itself worked out?
I've read a lot of things. I was at a dinner, I think I told you last week, with a bunch of retailers, and they're saying 2023. They're saying this isn't coming anytime soon. And that's why I said, when you run parallel paths, this is long term, and how are you going to manage your business knowing that these shortages may continue to happen, whether it's raw material. You know, I think I told you it's 120 days for denim. You know, foam is nowhere to be found. So you have these raw material issues. You have the, you know, production issues. So we talked about Vietnam, you know, where these guys are sick and we're not getting the manufacturing, you know, the shipping, not only the shipping that are imports that aren't moving or that are on sandbars, but the shipping prices are going up. And so, you know, we have a good at least 18, 24 months ahead of us. How are you starting to plan for that? That's my guess. If I had a crystal ball, I think I would be rich, but I don't.
I mean, just the container prices as a whole, just, you know, being up tenfold, you know, over the course of the past 18 months, sometimes, you know, 13, 14-fold. And even if you had negotiated contract rates, you don't have those containers available because they're selling them there for so much more. It's, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was not unmuted. I actually heard that last week from a retailer, and they're not honoring their contracts. There's no regulation, so of that industry, so they could do whatever they want to do. And so, you know, it's basically a bidding war for the supply. It's unbelievable to me that's going on.
Yeah, unless you are like one of those big ones where you own your own ships, or I was reading, I think Home Depot or one of those big retailers, they own their own ships and containers, so it's they've been not affected by it that much, but for the rest, the shipping cost has been gone like 6, 10 times, 8 times, 10 times. So the only option they have is either they pay more or they have to wait. So, and even then, even if they are paying, they don't know if it's going to be delivered on time. So it's quite unpredictable these days.
You know, it's interesting. There's that pain point on one side, but at the same time, what we have from a customer standpoint, the end consumer is, I still expect it in a day or 2 days at the max. I don't want to wait any longer for that. And so I think, you know, it'd be remiss to just work on, you know, the supplier side of supply chain and, you know, making sure you get that. And maybe it's not just in time inventory anymore. Maybe you have, you know, bigger safety stocks or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, you still need to get it to the end consumer, right? As quickly as possible in the most efficient way as possible. Are you seeing changes in delivery methods at all? I know you were talking about, you know, maybe using these third-party delivery partnerships like Uber and stuff, but we'd love to hear, you know, and then we have a question, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on, you know, from a delivery, you know, order management, you know, getting it in the system, but then routing it to the right delivery method, whether it is, you know, buy online, pick up in store, delivery from store, Uber. I mean, routing to your 3PL. You know, there's some cool digital age 3PLs that are popping up that are servicing a lot of different retailers as a whole. Like, you know, how do you see that part changing? Like, you have to have that in place. Is there like a great place to start on that side? And then we have another question that comes in I want to tackle.
So yeah, as in the biggest change we've seen is a lot of them opt for the same day delivery piece, because and initially we started with the same day delivery, and but then when some of the feedback we got from the customers was, you are calling it a same day delivery, if I've ordered at 10 a.m. in the morning, will I get it by end of the day, because that's technically same day as well. So so what we've done is, after the first version of implementing same day delivery, we've tried to narrow down the window. So the retailer we are working with is, we cut down the SLAs on our end, on the order management side, and on the store, and work with the store side, so to make sure the stuff is delivered within like 3 hours. So we are calling it as a 3-hour delivery now, because that if you are ordering by 10 a.m. Then same day delivery might be like end of day, but 3-hour delivery at least tells you that you're going to get it by 1. So that's the biggest thing. With carriers and all, I know, Jennifer, if you have any thoughts around that. We've not seen a lot of change, except for carriers charging a bit more, because they are overloaded as well. They are short on drivers as well. So that's what we've seen. But Jennifer, do you have any thoughts on that?
I sort of echo what you just said. I mean, I've seen UPS come out and do mass hiring. you know, just to be able to satisfy the upcoming holiday demand. You know, we saw everything last year, Aaron. It was like anything that could stick to get orders out the door, we were sort of doing it. So from everything from curbside to same day, drop ship, marketplaces, you name it, we sort of did it. And I think that is really sort of unwinding a bit to back to what does the business want to do? What's their overall strategy? And we just came out with a solution that helps put all of that into place. It's a nice little plug for me. But one of the pieces of it takes into account delivery costs, and the business owner can manage the delivery cost automatically and use the vendor that's, you know, has the best cost today versus if somebody wanted an order tomorrow. So there's all of that type of technology that's going on to try to optimize, you know, all of those fulfillment opportunities.
Yeah. Another thread I want to pull there, but we have a kind of a comment and a question that came in, and you know, one I want to get to is around you know, actual manufacturers, brands becoming retailers and how that's changing the landscape of the traditional retailer space. But you know, Connie writes, it says, hey, I'm in the construction industry and we deal with a lot of made to order product. And we're hearing from our manufacturers that there are a lot of labor issues, shortages as well, which are contributing to delays. And we're finding this spilling into the trucking industry as well. You know, any thoughts on that? Have you seen the same thing?
It's really the perfect storm right now. And you know, I think I said I wasn't going to say that, but you have your manufacturing's not being able to make it because of raw materials. Then you try to ship it. There's no the long haul truckers are significantly understaffed. I think they have one driver for every 9 that they need. You know, so it is really just an awful ripple effect that's going on.
Yeah, and I think it's across the board. And then on the flip side is when it gets to the warehouse, right? We've seen this stack up on the Amazon side is there aren't enough people to unload it. There's so many trucks going in, there aren't enough people then at the warehouses to unload it. So then it keeps going down the chain further. Are there, you know, how have you seen, you know, brands adapt to becoming retailers, right? The, you know, traditional, I'm shipping to a store and they're selling it, to now I've got my own direct to consumer site. Wait, and I can actually ship other people's product as well. I've seen that pop up. Is that, I think it's a trend that's here to stay. I mean, there's some that it doesn't really make sense for if it's a smaller CPG item, but you know, in other spaces, it makes perfect sense. Are you guys seeing the same kind of issues, and are they popping up more and more on your radar as well?
They do, and especially so one of the big as a brand which Perficient works with, they used to sell lingerie through a luxury departmental store. So what happened was, because and they were primarily B2B prior to the pandemic. So with stores being closed down, they saw their competitors trying to go B2C, so they decided to go B2C, and so we definitely saw that. But other thing which came with it is they actually were on the cut. They started innovating. So our team worked with their team in creating a mobile application which essentially what it does is it scans your body and then asks you like 3 or 4 questions, and based on that we give you a list of personalized products for that particular brand. So again, and that is an example of a business which transitioned from pure B2C to B2C because they started selling to the customers directly, and but on top of that they were able to innovate and get a lot of traffic, B2C traffic, and it was pretty widely appreciated throughout the industry.
Yeah, super interesting. Like, Jennifer, you seeing the same thing as this massive shift to, you know, traditional B2B to, wait a minute, like, why don't I just pop on my own website? And then, you know, you're managing, you know, inventory and orders and pricing and everything else in a whole different fashion.
Right. We're definitely seeing it. It's more, I think, and you probably have heard this, so I'm not saying anything new, pushed by the fact that the business customer or the end user is a consumer on all of these great websites. So they expect this sort of experience, a digital experience that they're not getting from their B2B, you know, customer or brand. So that's really what I'm seeing. I still don't think it's 100% there yet. You know, I think you're going to see the shift more over the next couple of years. Everything I read says it's here, but I'm not seeing it. Just a little bit here and there. So I do think that it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
So we have a few minutes left here. I want to make sure that we kind of get over to key takeaways. You know, thoughts as a whole. You know, are there things that came up today, or are there things that didn't come up today that you thought might, that are kind of key takeaways? And I'll start with you, Jennifer, and then we can go to Devanshu as we kind of get to the last couple of minutes here.
Trying to think of, I mean, this was super interesting. I think, you know, much like I've expressed from last week when I had visited with retailers, was that I expected there to be a lot more conversation about inventory and how you optimize it. So this is really interesting for me because it's really about more so the holistic supply chain and what we should or should not be doing or considering. So I think that was really good for me. You know, and I know that I think for me the takeaways as I've sort of been looking at this over the last couple of weeks is, you know, the labor shortages, the shipping issues, the raw material issues, like this stuff is going on, and how do we continue to stay focused on it and try to reinvent ourselves with less.
No, I think the inventory side is if you can get it, it's like
yeah, exactly.
right? Like we got it.
Yeah.
Now let's get out the door and make some money. Yeah, Devanshu, I'd love to hear, you know, key takeaways, and thoughts here.
No, so I think we've covered a lot of stuff. So one thing which additionally we've seen a lot is the growing presence of social media and driving brand perception and driving trends. So what we've seen is retailers they've been running a lot of sentiment analysis on their brands and the trends and trying to figure out where are customers looking at, and then based on that asking their designers or manufacturers to make stuff like that and try to get it as quickly to the country and out of the door. So social media is playing a big presence.
Yeah, and it's been huge, and you know, as a sales channel as well. And I see we're kind of getting right to time here. I do want to say a quick thank you to everybody who joined today, all the great questions that came in. Thanks for sharing. Look for a follow-up email from us. We'd love to have a conversation with you and things that are going on in this space, other pain points, other topics for discussions we might have. You know, Devanshu, Jennifer, thanks so much for your time and your expertise today. If anybody needs any follow-up information on this, wants a deeper dive discussion on anything that we talked about today, 100% worth setting up a time, you know, to connect with Devanshu or Jennifer on any of this stuff. They're all around great friends, partners, supporters of the network, working with a lot of brands in the network as a whole, and just a great overall contact point. Is, you know, so if you're looking for additional information, more than happy to kind of grow the network and do what we do best here, which is connect resident experts as a whole. So more than happy to connect you with them. And with that, I think we're going to wrap it up. I hope everybody has a fantastic Thursday. Great rest of the week. Everybody take care, stay safe, and look forward to having you on a future event. Alrighty, thanks again, Jennifer. Thanks, Devanshu. Alrighty, we'll see everybody. Alrighty, bye-bye.